Who knows? But you know what? I read it, I wrote my paper, and we're done. Hello everyone. I have been going through a lot physically and mentally. It's gonna be a very, very chill wrap up. I did read a decent amount of books. Almost all of them were audiobooks. I have not read a physical book in a very long time, but I do want to share them with you. The first book that I read in May was I Might Regret This: Essays, Drawings, Vulnerabilities, and Other Stuff by Abby Jacobson. And I know her from Broad City, and I did not rate this because it is a memoir, and I don't know, I think I've come to terms with the fact that I feel weird rating memoirs, but it was very meh. I think if you really like her, like even if you really like her, I passively like her, but I mostly wanted just an audiobook to listen to while I play Animal Crossing. And boy, did this do that for me. I find it really easy to multitask when I listen to nonfiction, so this was just one that I've had on my wish list on Libby, and it just happened to be free the day that I was going to start something new while I played Animal Crossing. It wasn't anything special, wouldn't really recommend it. Next, I reread Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. Can you guess what I gave it? It's a 5-star read. Wow. It's my favorite book of the series, so pretty self-explanatory. Next, I read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Those 3 books were all that I read in May. And it's because The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes kind of put me in a slump. And not necessarily, not in a bad way, but I don't know. Anyway, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I will be doing a review video on it, so stay tuned for that. So all I'm gonna say here is it's a 4-star for me. I did a live show on Peyton's channel, I will link it below, where we discussed the book. It had a lot of things in there that I was kind of disappointed about, a lot of expectations I had, or things that were set up that I feel like just weren't followed through enough. But there were some aspects of it that I really enjoyed, and I really liked the character of Lucy Gray. So, yes, stay tuned for my full review. Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I had never read a book by Elizabeth Acevedo prior to June, and I have now read all 3. So Clap When You Land is a story about grief and love and family, and it's written in verse, which was amazing. I listened to the audiobooks for all 3 of Elizabeth Acevedo's books. Highly would recommend that. One of the sisters lives in the Dominican Republic, and the other sister lives in New York City. And their father dies in a plane crash at the very beginning of the book, and it kind of follows them finding each other. There is LGBTQ plus representation in this, and it was so good. I don't know why. I've had Elizabeth Acevedo's books on my TBR for a very, very long time, and I got so lucky because everything that I read in June was an audiobook through Libby, and my Libby app was just coming through for me. I don't know how I got this book this quickly after it came out. It's just so good. It's so hard to explain. I feel like I always have less to say about contemporaries, but I would just read it. Next, I read Black Enough: Stories of Being Young and Black in America by E.B. Zaboy, and I gave this 4 stars, which I think is the highest rating I've ever given an anthology, because I usually have the issue of there's one really, really good story, and then there's 10 that are very meh. But for me, this one, there were a couple that were meh, but I would say 85% of them were really, really good. And all of the short stories have Black teens as the main characters, but they're told in different settings. Some of them are immigrants, some are, live in a poor rural county, some are wealthy, some are, struggling with their sexuality. there's so many different types of stories in here, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it was really well put together also in terms of like the order the stories went in. It just flowed so nicely, and it was definitely the best anthology experience that I've had so far. Then I listened to The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and this book has been on my list for years, and I finally got around to it. 5 stars, so good. I really don't know which one I prefer between this and Clap When You Land. This one was so impactful. Our main character, Xiomara, discovers slam poetry, and it kind of is an outlet for her to express everything she's struggling with, from the rules and the religion that she feels is being like forced down her throat, her complicated relationship with her mom, the struggle she has with her self-image, and how people make these assumptions of her because she is curvy, and her experiences growing up in her Harlem neighborhood. And it was so well done. Again, it was in verse, and you got to hear the characters slam poetry, and I really enjoyed it. I think my one complaint was that the ending felt a little bit rushed for me, but I mean, it's still a 5-star read. It was so good. Definitely, if you're like me and it's been on your TBR for a really, really long time, just listen to it. So the next book that I listened to was The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, and I gave this 4 stars. I thought this was really good. I think it's a really important read. It is about this boy who is struggling to find his identity and discover who he is. As a self-identified gay teenager, he is mixed race, and it starts off with him pretty young, and then it goes up towards like him in university and the experiences he has there and how he discovers his passion for drag, and he finds so much freedom and self-expression in the drag community. And I was just so happy at the end of the book that it had a hopeful note at the end. I think it's just one of the books that I know, people need to read, and it's an important one. Next, I finally finished The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater. I gave this 4 stars, although the more I think about it, I'm like, was it a 3? I read this, it took me 2 months to read it. I think it's probably a 3.5. Definitely my least favorite of the series, but not like Allegiant bad in terms of like a really disappointing 3rd book. It wasn't like that level, but it definitely didn't. I don't know, it was just missing some of the flavor, some of the magic. I am not used to talking this long. My throat is so dry. Would I recommend this series? Absolutely, to the right person. I don't think this is a series that everyone would enjoy. I'm really, really glad I read it, and I had so much fun with it. I think the 3rd book is definitely the best one, and then I probably liked the 1st book, and then the 2nd book, and then the 4th book, in case you wanted my ranking. But I'm really glad I read that series. So the next 2 books are books that I had to read for my summer school classes, so we will go over them briefly. So the first one is The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, a Leadership Fable by Patrick Lencioni. And this was a book about things that people already know and or is common sense. So this one dude has this like pyramid of the 5 dysfunctions of a team, and it's like, I can't even remember, I should know because I'm still in that class. But the top is trust, and it's like the different levels and like the things you need to have in order to have an effective team. And he basically took that chart and he made it into a narrative story of like this fake tech company in California, like the startup, and all these characters have like different dysfunctions within the team. And I don't know, I gave it 2 stars. Like, I get what it was trying to do, but at the same time I was like, a lot of this is common sense. So that was that. And then I had to read A Child Called It by Dave Pelzer. I had already had to read this in undergrad. If you don't know what it is a memoir of one of the worst child abuse cases in California. and it chronicles his childhood growing up, all the awful things that his mother did to him. It's a really, really tough read. I really don't like reading it because I am also have a phobia of vomit, and there is some in there, and that's the only thing I remembered from the entire book prior to having to reread it. So it was a time. Didn't rate it. There's also some controversy surrounding the author, so who knows, but you know what? I read it, I wrote my paper, and we're done. Next, I read With a Fire on High, once again, by Elizabeth Acevedo. I gave this one 4 stars. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as the other 2 books. I just really missed that it wasn't in verse, to be honest, but it follows this girl in high school, and she is a teen mom, and I don't think I've ever read a contemporary that didn't paint that in like a really, really negative light. Our character was dealing with communicating with her ex and her struggling with her career path and what she wants to do in relation to taking care of her kid, and I really, really liked it. There's also a lot of cooking in there. She's really passionate about cooking, and that was really fun to read about. I was just a little disappointed by the ending, I think. Nothing really surprised me in it. I thought the whole thing was just it was just fun and cute. Definitely not as like gritty as the other 2 books I read. There's also nothing wrong with that, so yeah. So then the last thing that I listened to was The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LaValle, and I had a lot of fun with this. This is a like novella horror thriller, and I don't really want to say anything because it's so short and I don't want to give anything away. I didn't know anything going into it. I really liked it. Again, I listened to it. I listened to basically everything in June, but I enjoyed it. It was a really interesting thriller, and I don't read many novellas. I want to like find more like short story or novella length thrillers, so if you have any to recommend me, please let me know in the comments. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry if this wasn't as in-depth maybe as my past ones, or I wasn't as, you know, my mood's a little weird. Like I said, I've been going through a lot, but I did really want to film this, so I hope that's okay. I'm probably not as peppy as in past wrap-ups, but I did overall really, really enjoy the books that I read in May and June, which I'm grateful for. I hope you guys are doing well, staying safe, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!